The catastrophic loss of Air France Flight 447 on June 1st, 2009, remains one of the most sobering events in modern aviation history. Carrying 228 people from Rio de Janeiro to Paris, the sophisticated Airbus A330 vanished without a distress call in the dark hours over the equatorial Atlantic. The immediate aftermath was defined by confusion, a frantic search, and the crushing realization that a plane designed to fly itself had succumbed to a chain of events that culminated in a disastrous 4-minute freefall into the deep ocean. The crisis began with a routine encounter, crossing the Intertropical Convergence Zone, ITCZ, a volatile region known for towering thunderstorms. At approximately 2:10 a.m. UTC, the jet entered an area of severe turbulence and high-altitude ice crystals. These crystals instantly clogged the aircraft's Pitot tubes, the external sensors crucial for measuring airspeed. With its data blind, the flight computers did what they were programmed to do. They disengaged the autopilot and the advanced automated flight protections. Suddenly, a technologically advanced fly-by-wire jet was reduced to a manually controlled machine in the hands of 3 pilots who, despite their experience, were critically unprepared for this specific failure scenario. The situation was instantly compounded by the actions of the pilot flying, Relief First Officer Pierre-Cédric Bonin. Reacting instinctively to the turbulence and the sudden disconnection of the autopilot, and possibly misinterpreting the sudden drop in the unreliable speed indicators, Bonin immediately applied a sharp nose-up input to the side stick. This was the exact opposite of the correct procedure for a perceived or actual stall, which requires pitching the nose down to gain speed and lift. Bonin's continuous upward pull bled all the jet's forward energy, converting the aircraft from a high-speed projectile into a massive, stalling metallic leaf. The resulting angle of attack, less AOA, quickly became critical. The sophisticated stall warning horn blared relentlessly, a noise that should have prompted an immediate nose-down push. Yet Bonin persisted in pulling back, likely believing he was climbing to escape the storm. This fatal, sustained input would ultimately doom the flight. The voices in the dark, the human factor. The transcript from the Cockpit Voice Recorder, CVR, is a harrowing document revealing not just a technical failure, but a complete breakdown of crew resource management, CRM. Crucially, the captain, Marc Dubois, was in his mandatory rest period when the initial crisis occurred. His return to the cockpit minutes later was into a scene of flashing alarms and utter chaos. The recordings show the 2 junior officers failed to verbally inform the captain of the fundamental error, that the plane was stalling and that the pilot flying was holding the stick fully back. The conversation between the crew was dominated by confusion over the airspeed indicators and the engine power settings, rather than the core aerodynamic problem. Bonin repeatedly expressed his confusion. "I don't have the primary display. I don't have the valid indicator." First Officer David Robert, though seeming to realize the danger, failed to take decisive action or effectively communicate his analysis. The most damning revelation was the lack of awareness regarding the continuous nose-up input. Because the Airbus side sticks are non-linked, neither Robert nor Captain Dubois could physically feel or see the extent of Bonin's catastrophic input on their own sticks. The CVR reveals a slow, dreadful realization. Robert eventually grasps the truth and in the final minute shouts, "But I've been pulling on the stick fully back for a while now." This revelation of his own mistake, minutes too late, was followed by a chilling exchange. A pilot, identified as Robert, then says, "No, no, no, don't climb." And a few seconds later, "Climb! No, no, no." The final horrifying sounds are the captain's strained voice giving the ultimate futile command. "Pull up, pull up, pull up," followed by the sound of the plane shattering against the surface of the South Atlantic. The voices of the cockpit crew captured the agonizing journey from a controlled flight path to an unavoidable high-speed impact. For the passengers in the cabin, the experience was a terrifying, violent freefall that lasted nearly 4 minutes, likely leading to disorientation and extreme fear before the final instantaneous impact. The unprecedented search and recovery. The search for AF-447 was unlike any before it. The last known position was over 600 nautical miles northeast of Brazil, over an area of the ocean floor that was largely unmapped and known for its extreme depth. The initial surface search quickly established that the aircraft had disintegrated upon impact, ruling out a controlled ditching. The real challenge was locating the flight recorders, the black boxes, which were resting up to 12,800 feet, nearly 4 kilometers, beneath the waves. The maximum effective range of the recorder's locator beacons, pingers, is only about 1.25 nautical miles, and their battery life is only 30 days. Despite a massive multinational effort utilizing towed hydrophones, the pinger's signals faded into the silent void. The search became a geological survey. For 2 years, phase after phase of the operation failed, costing millions, and leading to intense emotional strain for the victims' families and the investigators. Finally, in 2011, after a complete overhaul of the search strategy and the deployment of highly advanced autonomous underwater vehicles, AUVs, the main wreckage field was located. The AUVs methodically scanned the abyssal plain, eventually detecting an anomalous concentration of metallic debris. The recovery operation was a masterpiece of deep-sea engineering. French salvage teams used a specialized remote-operated vehicle, ROV, to retrieve the black boxes from the seabed. These devices, though designed to withstand significant G-forces, were miraculously intact. Their successful recovery from such depths allowed the world to finally understand the technical and human details of the disaster, transitioning the investigation from conjecture to undeniable fact. The effort showcased that even the deepest parts of the planet could not hide the truth of an aviation tragedy. The legacy of the Freefall, changes in aviation. The Air France 447 report, formally published by France's Bureau of Inquiry, and Analysis for Civil Aviation Safety, BEA, did not assign fault, but instead focused on systemic failures and necessary reforms. Its findings led to several fundamental and permanent changes in the global aviation industry, ensuring that no similar combination of events could ever be repeated. First, pilot training was drastically revised. The key finding was that pilots were highly skilled in managing a normal flight path and highly automated systems, but they lacked confidence and competence in manual high-altitude flight and unexpected attitude recovery. Airlines worldwide instituted new, mandatory training modules focusing on high angle of attack, AOA stalls, and the critical importance of immediately pitching down during a stall warning, regardless of contradictory speed readings. The concept of stick priority and verbalizing control inputs, "I have the controls," was also emphasized to prevent ambiguous input conflicts between pilots. Second, the Pitot tube issue was immediately addressed. The model of Pitot tube, used on AF447, was shown to be susceptible to high-altitude ice crystal blockage. Airlines globally expedited replacement programs for more resilient models across the Airbus and Boeing fleets. Third, and perhaps most technically significant, the AF447 tragedy accelerated the implementation of AOA indicators in the cockpit. While this data was available to the flight computers, it was not prominently displayed to the pilots. Following the accident, modern cockpits began to install AOA gauges, providing pilots with a direct, reliable measure of the wing's lift capability, a measure that remains accurate even when airspeed indicators fail. This innovation gives pilots a crucial, redundant piece of information that would have immediately told the AF447 crew that their nose was pointed dangerously high. Finally, the incident propelled a push for longer-lasting flight recorder beacons and real-time data streaming. Regulators began requiring the recorders to transmit their location data for significantly longer periods, and explored methods for aircraft to automatically stream crucial flight data parameters during an in-flight emergency. The ultimate goal is to eliminate the need for an extensive, years-long search by locating the wreckage faster, or, ideally, having the data recovered instantaneously. The memory of Flight 447 and its horrifying freefall into the deepest ocean ensures that the lessons learned remain the foundation of safety for every flight that follows.